If a 5-year-old child is old enough to experience racism, then all children are old enough to learn about the evils of racism and how to stop racism in our schools.
The history books don't humanize the 20 and odd Africans who first landed on these shores in 1619 to English North America. Point Comfort, present-day Hampton, Virginia. There are no proper introductions to their hopes, their dreams, their goals, their skill. Nameless black faces, captured and enslaved. Following the commemoration of the 400th anniversary of the Africans' arrival, there was a commitment to aptly integrate the 1619 story into the K-12 public school curriculum. Not just their existence, but the legacy of their free, back-breaking labor that helped create the America we know today.
What if we had come all this way just to get stumped so close?
How then leads us straight to now.
Freedom is on the other side, said Papa.
When you don't learn that all people contributed in important ways to the development of your country, when you only learn about a certain group of people who had the power to develop, to contribute in ways that have been documented, then yes, you then grow up believing that, well, this country is really only for a certain group of people and then there are others. So there then is this narrative of there are white people and there are everybody else. That's dangerous because you take that into your professions, into your disciplines, into your trades. You take that into the world. That's a problem.
They're all teaching history, but are they supporting our teachers?
Backlash has been swift, with politicians and parents sharpening their focus on so-called divisive concepts and critical race theory, making some others feel like 1619 and Black history are under attack.
Is this bill says that you cannot teach individuals that racism is right, that sexism is right. All of us know that that is wrong.
You got a whole lot of things that are going to come out that you need to discuss that have to do with racism, sexism, and oppression.
What does it mean when former President Trump emails to the media 1776, not 1619? After all, much of the roots of Black history in America go hand in hand with 1619.
That is code.
NSU social justice professor Dr. Kalita Fairfax co-chaired Hampton's commemoration of the Africans' first landing. She's also the editor of The African Experience in Colonial Virginia, essays on the 1619 arrival and the legacy of slavery.
There is willful neglect to not include the evolution of enslavement, the violence and horror of enslavement, to not include the role of law, to not include jurisprudence, to not include ideological suppositions about African people, about indigenous people, to not develop in children cultural humility, cultural respect toward other people. So it means that there is a willful intent to ignore the histories of other groups of people.
Families being broken apart, the list of those shot and killed. Again, where do I even start?
Poet and Booker T. Washington High School senior Ayanna Askew
Killed because they thought it was a real gun.
is just the type of student who wants to read about her history in her school textbooks.
Black history should definitely be included more in lessons. It should go beyond historical figures like Martin Luther King or Jackie Robinson, but definitely more of the unknown historical figures as well, because they definitely played a part in history.
And this notion that teaching about racism is divisive or hurtful to our country is actually telling about the people making that claim.
Teacher supporters gather for this protest rally in Richmond. Their words, both spoken and written, reflect a dislike of Governor Glenn Youngkin's email tip line for parents to report teachers who teach inherently divisive concepts. Antonia Saunders is a local high school art teacher, and during Black History Month, she likes to highlight Black artists who depict real-life stories through their creations.
And what's happened with Governor Youngkin and this tip line has really made it difficult. It has not constrained me so much that I don't want to teach the truth, but it has made me think twice.
Reviewing our history curriculum. And this is a chance for us to make sure that we are fully embracing all of our history, and I fully support it.
Do you think that email tip line, though, will cause some teachers to feel like maybe I need to pull back on some of the Black history that I teach?
No, I think that constituent services, which is what our email address is, it provides all Virginians to give us feedback.
But Saunders is already witnessing the fallout.
I know that there are a lot of teachers who are struggling, and they are trying to figure out, how they can say the things, how they can teach the facts without losing their job. Teaching the facts is not critical race theory.
A graduate level concept that isn't taught in K through 12. Even still, critical race theory, banned in schools by Youngkin in an executive order, explores how racism is less about a person's individual bias and more about how inequity is embedded within systems and institutions and woven into public policy. What is it about critical race theory that you dislike? Why is that, to you, an inherently divisive concept?
Well, let me just start with a divisive concept isn't necessarily defined as critical race theory, and I think that's one of the big mistakes that, in fact, both sides are making. Divisive concepts are when we teach our children that based on their race, their sex, or their religion, that they are either viewed as being superior or inferior to another human being.
We recommended that the approach to the standards be changed.
Dr. Cassandra Newby-Alexander chaired a subcommittee on the state's Commission on African American History Education in the Commonwealth. In September 2020, they issued this report on how to improve the way African American history is taught in Virginia schools. It calls for a more thematic approach to teaching instead of random facts and dates.
The difference is that the previous narratives were about justifying people's actions. Because you had this foundation of these are great white men, and they did what they did for the good of our society.
Here's an example of a recommendation from the Commission on changing the text written about 1619. First, the original language. Africans arrived in Virginia against their will in 1619. Now, the recommendation. With the forced arrival of these Africans, Virginia would create a system of people treated as property based on their skin color.
Yes.
How do you see that important lesson being incorporated in history lessons throughout the Commonwealth?
Fully incorporated.
About as we revise and strengthen our history standards, we are going to be including all of our history, and there's so much of that history that has not been told.
We did ask Youngkin's new Secretary of Education whether the current standards recommended by the Commission would continue to be implemented. We have yet to receive an answer.